Nice. We're best friends.
We're old friends.
We're old friends by now. So much vaginas. My story's going to be short. Everyone's been going. I always write short stories. And they're all about my life. And nothing to do with my vagina either. So. It was late. It was 4 a.m. And I just had the most amazing night of my life. After years of havoc, guilt, and repression, I had partied my ass off. I had just entered college and I was stage managing a series of Greek tragedies, and the cast party was my introduction to the hard partying life of community college theater. What, and I know now this is going to be hard to believe, guys, was I was painfully awkward in high school. So much so that I actually joined the hall monitors to make friends. And it didn't work because I was militant about the rules. But tonight, we called upon the Greek god Dionysus. I drank, smoked weed, I had sex, set off illegal fireworks, ate nachos. Did I mention that I had sex with a human woman? It was glorious. But now the night was over and I had to go home. At the time, I lived 2 hours away, and the guy that was going to drive me home was too drunk to drive. And I couldn't stay at that guy's house because I had just had sex with a girl. You don't do that. Don't do that when you're 17. So I called my only friend Drew. And I knew he would take me in because I begged. And he was an evangelical Christian and was required by God to help people in need. I mean, I couldn't stand the guy. He was always trying to save me, and he looked like a mini Indiana Jones. He dressed like a professor of archaeology, and he always wore a fedora. He was also short, and you can't trust little people. But beggars can't be choosers, and his family loved me, and was always looking for their next charity case. They had been trying to convert me for 2 years, invited me to church events where they had strong men rip phone books in half because they love Jesus! So I snuck into his house, and I told Drew of all the wonderful sinning that I did, and he smiled and told me he had a good night's sleep. I was woken up at 7 a.m. by Drew, and the first words out of his mouth was, "Did you have fun last night?" And I knew then and there that coming here was a bad idea. He told me to get ready because we were going to church, since I needed it. I grumbled out of bed and headed to the bathroom. The lack of sleep didn't bother me nearly as much as the fact that I was still drunk. Plus, on a scale of flowers to Sodom, I smelled like a moron. Showering didn't help because it was my clothes that reeked, and I couldn't borrow clothes from him because he was a shifty midget. So I did what any drunk person does in the 90s. I sprayed myself with Lysol. It was before Febreze. For you kids that had never smelled Lysol, it has a distinct alcohol base, which made it seem like I had been drinking grain alcohol. Stumbled out of the bathroom and had breakfast with the family. Oatmeal and orange juice. Always a great combination when you've been drinking all night. I know I smelled that because instead of hugs, I got Drew's family stopping 3 feet from me and just waving. The car ride to church was fun, silent, with all the windows down. And the pastor gets one look, and I'm assuming a whiff, and asks me if I want to run soundboard for the service, which I've done before in a nice, quiet control room, away from the hoi polloi. And suddenly I was alone with my shame. I was raised Catholic, and even though I had fun the night before, I was feeling guilty for what I did. Especially as I was coming down, and guys, I don't know how many of you have sobered up in church, but it is not a pleasant experience. What made it even worse was when the pastor went up to give a sermon, he said, "I had a speech prepared today, but I feel like someone needs to hear about living a clean life and get excess." To be honest with you guys, I laid down on the floor and started crying. I thought, had I damned myself? Had I really crossed the line I could never return from? Would God really abandon me? I needed a sign to know he was still there. Or was this it? And in the exact moment, Drew came into the room and started telling me that I was worth saving. I wanted to tell him that I was done being preached at. I wanted to tearfully tell him, "I know, brother," but before I could, he picked me up and grabbed me by the shoulders and started to shake me and yell that I was God's child that should be saved. I wanted to tearfully thank him, but instead, as he shook me, all I could say was, "Stop shaking me. Stop shaking me." And I vomited on him. All over him and his fedora. Looking back on it now, I wish I started spinning in a circle and speaking Aramaic. But I didn't. I never did get to finish that speech from him, nor was I allowed back at that church. more welcome in his house. But I guess God works in mysterious ways. Thank you.